What is up, boys and girl? Today I'm going to be talking about my recently leveled Primalist. This is a shaman, it's a totem character. I was talking about it in the previous video and I've learned some really cool lessons. So this is going to be a video about how maybe you shouldn't be sticking to only one class in Last Epoch. Uh, like I have been sticking to Acolyte for an incredibly long time. And also maybe if you guys are leveling a Primalist, some tips and tricks. I had a lot of people in my chat who were questioning how quickly you can level a Primalist. There's a lot of, to be honest, misinformation when it comes to what you should be doing. I did quite a lot of experimentation as I do tend to be interested in speedrunning. And it might not be, the absolute best way of doing it. I know there's people like, I think, Tarek that do speedruns for these sort of things. But at the very least, okay, hopefully after watching this video, you're not going to be another person sitting in my chat and talking about how terrible the leveling is. And how, I should have never played the bear. And maybe you want to level your reflect build and you don't quite know how to do it. So maybe this just might help you out. But I'll definitely start with the little bit of an encouragement. If you are somebody like me who has been sticking to one class, you should be trying different things. Honestly, Last Epoch does a really good job at making you feel really good about trying different things because unlike PoE, the sort of items that you have access to are very different. The implicits are very different. The stat focus is very different. And yes, that's going to happen in PoE as well, but I gotta say, not to this degree. A fun part of what I've been doing is also messing around with the filter that I got from Maxroll, as this is a shaman build, and I am following Bina's shaman guide on Maxroll, but I have been switching things up and again trying out different things, and I do think that we have a little bit of a more a better, honestly, leveling strategy for these things, even though Bina was doing incredibly well on the ladder. It really adds a lot of spice to the video game, I thought I'm gonna be playing an Acolyte again. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna do the same thing but better, maybe speedrun it, whatever. Nah, it really just wasn't working for me. And in this season in particular, the shaman, the primalist so far is what's doing it for me. So I might even be trying out other builds in the future. So without further ado, what did I do on this character? At first, you only have access to the wolf. The wolf is a little bit tricky because you kind of want to be using its active ability, but honestly, it's not that great because of the mana management issues that you're going to be running into. But for about like the first 10 levels, try to use the ability as much as possible. The first thing that I specialize into is Gathering Storms. I pick up the attack speed over here to head on over to the lightning penetration, and then I pick up excited bolts as soon as I've got 2 points into thunderous strikes. And honestly, I found that this is the most damage that you can do at this stage of the game. I know that some people specialize into the totem. I don't do that quite yet. I did try it out and I just didn't find it to be nearly as effective. But at this point of the game, you're only a couple levels in and you've got Gathering Storm. Then eventually you start specializing into the Summon Thorn Totem. And again, this will depend on what exactly you want to be doing. You're not going to be really clearing with this. It's mostly going to be a single target tool. So whether you go for Ancient Power or you go for Forested Expanse isn't a big difference. But Ancient Power, I think, gives you more bang for your buck because you are going to need your mana. And the reason for that is Tempest Strike. I really don't see people talk about this ability, but it's incredibly strong. The reason why it's incredibly strong is because it kind of works like Rib Blood for Acolyte due to the Gladiator of Lagon node. Through this node, you're hitting enemies, which unfortunately Tempest Strike is incredibly mana hungry. You can see that it's 16 mana. But whenever you hit enemies, you gain shared spell damage, which is good for you and it's good for your minions. At this stage of the game, you should be doing all of your side passives and you should have access to summon Storm Crows. You don't specialize into this, but they do actually end up doing a pretty substantial amount of damage with the Tempest Strike. And whenever you're out of mana, whenever you can't place your totems or whatever, you're going to always continue to hit things with Gathering Storm. Whether you want to be specialized in Gathering Storm or Tempest Strike or the Summon Thorn Totem, honestly, it's not a major difference. I ended up going for Tempest Strike and Thorn Totem, and I unspecialized the Gathering Storm, but hey, that's totally up to you. And at this stage of the game, you're, again, going to be probably around like level 13 to level 18. Some people over level very heavily, and you're going to have access to your mastery. When you have access to your mastery, I highly recommend, regardless of whatever primalist you're leveling, to go Shaman. And the reason for that is because you get one of the most busted leveling abilities in the entire game, and endgame abilities too, really. Summon Storm Totem. And this is, I think, where most people make a pretty major mistake. I've seriously tried out different setups with the Storm Totem because, in general, if you are leveling a Shaman, there's all these different things where you kind of want to pick up Forested Expanse, you want to get Memories of Atera, then you want to go Spriggan form, so you have to be specializing into Druid, and that's going to allow you to sustain the Summon Thorn Totem or Summon Healing Totem once you have the Spriggan form in Spriggan form, and this gives you a lot of cast speed and all these different things. But honestly, I found that about until like level 50 or so, once you're already in Monolith and everything, this wasn't particularly good clear. Trying to play this build early on is a little bit frustrating because you cannot use your Summon Storm Totem in Spriggan form without different unique items and whatnot. And there's also some issues with raids, so you have to invest into like non-damaging nodes early. And what I found to be the best solution to your leveling is to simply click Steel Plating immediately once you get the Summon Storm Totem. I would personally unspecialize out of Tempest Strike, so at this point you're gonna have Summon Thorn Totem with the specs that we previously mentioned, and I would pick up Blizzard. This node is not something that any of the totem builds use in the end game, but in the early game, it's a giant AoE that scales incredibly well with flat damage that I see, honestly, not a lot of content creators picking up in these early stages of the game. And this is also why I highly recommend you hold back on Spriggan form. Trust me, if you try this, as you can see from the footage too, it is absolutely destroying everything. But what's really cool about it, like I mentioned previously, it scales really well with flat damage. And for that reason, on most of the build guides that I've seen, they only really pick up Wisdom of the Wild, and then they go into Druid, and then try to get Spriggan form and summon Spriggan as quickly as possible. But what I would highly recommend for you to do instead is pick up Elder Branch. If you are using an axe, which you really want to be using an axe, this gives you 15 flat damage, and it's going to just about double or even triple the damage of your totems. And the only downside comes with the fact that you have to use an axe. An axe can't have minion damage, but what it can have is the far more important flat damage. So on the suffixes, you're going to be able to get minion spell damage, and then the other mod is minion bow damage, and you're going to be able to get minion spell damage alongside minion melee damage. I would highly recommend that you highlight these mods because they're not that common in the early game. You highlight these mods on your filter and you focus on crafting some weapons with them. If I can find things, I think I ended up removing them. I'm pretty sure they're in the minion section. They are in the minion section, and you can find them just here. And honestly, with this setup, as you can see, it is absolutely destroying everything. You're never really lacking single target because we're focusing very heavily on single target with Summon Thorn Totem. I don't recommend that you pick up Titan's Bane that quickly, but honestly, that's a little bit up to you. Some people like it early. Some people like to pick up a lot of points into ancestral wins if you're just focusing on single target, but probably you're going to have to unspec this later. I am a little bit overspec'd into damage as I'm trying to push power monoliths as quickly as possible. But this worked incredibly well for me. I didn't have to worry about my rage. I didn't have to worry about my Spriggan form. I didn't have to worry about shifting back and forth or having to focus a lot on gear for either survivability or anything else because yeah, the totem was just killing everything instantly. The blizzard was slowing things down really consistently. The unfortunate part only is that we can't increase the area of effect of the blizzard through Storm's Reach. But we don't have to invest into things like Unmatched Storm or Thunder Totem. I know a lot of people get into this really early and they rely on this very heavily. But the downside is that you have to place a bunch of different Thorn Totems prior to it. Honestly, I think none of it, time-wise or even DPS-wise in a lot of cases, is worth it compared to simply dropping down one big old Blizzard Totem and it destroying everything. It made for a very fun playstyle. I started to run monoliths, I think at level 35. Typically, the way that I'm going to do this is the same way that I guess I haven't really done the rest of my progression. So if you go over here, I start running monoliths whenever I get to the Oracle's Abode. I do all the passive point and idle quests prior to this. I don't do any dungeon skips before. So I get to the Oracle's Abode. I run the quest in the Shining Cove, which gives me, I think, a passive point and the idle slot. And this is where I finish at about level 34, 35, sometimes 36. My leveling, and I go straight to monoliths. And later on, if you want to continue, all you have to do is you have to find a temporal sanctum key. You right click the key, you've got access to this area because we did that quest that I just talked about, so you should be having the waypoint in this zone. You're on your temporal sanctum. You can use portal charm to skip that, and it'll put you at the exit of Temporal Sanctum. Once you're done with the dungeon, you do have to exit the dungeon manually. So that at the end, where you use the LP items, there's a gate. You go past the gate, and you're gonna be exiting in a latter part of the game, and you can finish your passive points and everything there. But the reason why I'm talking about this is because, again, I was level 35, and I had a little bit of a concern that if I were to go do monoliths right now, maybe my totems are gonna die. Maybe I'm not gonna do good damage. Nope, the Blizzard Totem was still carrying. I didn't have a good weapon. This is a completely fresh start character, so I don't have anything new. It's a solo character found even, so there's no real way of me cheating, I guess, if anybody thinks that. And only at level 35, I was running monoliths, and it was no problem. I didn't have to specialize into Rodbane. I'm still not specialized into it to increase the amount of health that my totems have. Yes, they will die sometimes when it's a particularly dangerous enemy, but all you really have to do is hope that your first monoliths are easy, that they have a good layout, and just repeat them over and over. So in my case, I think it was it was mud flats, yes, and then enemies cannot heal. So all you have to do is like go into a zone such as this one. Frozen Sea is also a really good one. You know, oh snap, I don't know, these mobs are particularly dangerous. Maybe you can't deal with the resistances. I tend to recommend like zombies, spiders. These mobs are really good. But if you don't like the mobs that you're seeing, maybe they're particularly dangerous for you. Again, I play on hardcore, whatever. You can just exit and you can get a new set of mobs, and you can just level up like that, get level 50, hell, get level 60, and start your regular monolith progression and finish your campaign later, which I will be doing tomorrow with this character because I'm actually having a lot of fun. So, hey, let's go for it. Again, I am following Bina's natural guide, and I will be linking in the description as I am incredibly inexperienced with the character, but I did find that, at least for the leveling things that I've talked about previously, I think it made for a pretty big difference. And at the end of the day, no matter what primalist you're leveling, you can always just respec your mastery and re-enter all of your points. I guess another final thing, because I did talk about which points not to take, you still talk about which points you can take. Honestly, once you have the Elder Branch, you're kind of free to do anything. If you feel like you need a little bit more power, Shamanistic Infusion is pretty good. And I would seriously try to aim to have Summon Spriggan somewhere around when you are level 50. And at that stage of the game, I would highly recommend that you follow the things enabled in this guide and just tweak your character a little bit, you know. You're not going to need Gathering Storm. It's just Summon Storm Totem, Summon Thorn Totem, Spriggan form, and then Summon Spriggan. And, you know, If you need more damage, pick up more damage in your tree. If you feel like you need more defense, pick up more defense. It's not really something that you can put into a guide because depending on the sort of items that you're going to have in your character, you might expect to need different things. Obviously, some characters are heavily specialized into damage, which is not the case. But with this one, I gotta say the Shaman Totem build is incredibly customizable. And again, I've been having a lot of fun with the permanent Spriggan form and my little tree dudes. So yeah, expect an update probably soon. I will be talking more about this build in the future, but also expect it to be, you know, more podcasty. It's not gonna be like a full-blown guide or anything, because for that you've already got like other guides. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about, like, I don't know, how my item progression went and how long things take me and all of those good things. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one. Bye.